Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. This is part two of the story of Detroit City. So that being said, let's get into it. This is bank robberies, multiple bank robberies that take place. And before we get started, let me let y'all know that this is many years back. These guys already being captured for doing the bank robberies. They've already did their time. They've already passed away. So I wanted to make that clear before I tell the story so people don't jump to conclusions and stuff like that. So basically, it's old news to some, and it's new news to many. That being said, we're going to get into it. Now, years back, I know it's not unheard of that banks get robbed, because I'm sure y'all have heard it on the news here and there, whatever the case may be. But this group of dudes, they decided they're going to rob some banks. And they actually do it. And they got different sums of money, from different banks and stuff like that. And this is like a spree, you know what I mean? That's going down. So, normally when a bank gets robbed, the police get called, the feds get involved, things of that nature. Then they start investigating it, to try to figure out, who did it, whatever, so they can go capture these guys or whatever. And it's basically the same scenario at every bank. Excuse me. But these group of guys, they end up deciding they're going to just, go on a bank robbing spree, you know what I mean? Rob the banks. So they do it. And then meanwhile, the first one that gets robbed, the feds are on it and they're investigating it and stuff like that. And then they're trying to figure out, who's doing it. Is it somebody? Is it a new bank robber? Is it an old bank robber? Somebody they're, know of, aware of, and stuff like that, and who lives in the vicinity that possibly might be the bank robber. They go through a bunch of steps to figure out exactly who's doing it. So, meanwhile, these guys are making progress. You know what I mean? They rob one bank, get away, then they rob another one and get away. And then they just continue to do this. So the agents are, trying to figure out who's actually doing this. Is it old bank robbers, new bank robbers? Because whoever it is, they're pretty slick about the way they're doing it and how they're getting away, stuff like that. So it's a long investigation. And meanwhile, these guys are hitting all kind of places. and getting all kind of money. And then they start going through, police records and stuff like that, trying to see who, who the robbers possibly could be and stuff like that. And it's taken them a while, but meanwhile, these guys are constantly hitting banks. You know what I mean? And getting enormous amounts of money and stuff like that. But anyways, the investigation's going. They're, doing everything they have to do to figure out what's going on, who's doing it, stuff like that. So then later on in the investigation, they're like, who could this possibly be, And then they check out the rap sheets of different people and stuff like that. And then they figure out that this group of guys are not on the street. They're in jail. That's robbing these banks. And then what had happened is, while they was in jail, they had a program going on where you could actually go to school and get education, stuff like that. So these group of guys, they get released to go, and they take them to school and stuff like that. Well, while they're going back and forth to out of jail to go to school and stuff like that, they was on some kind of program that, while they was incarcerated. But then they decide this is what they're going to do. They're going to rob some banks because they meet some chicks. And then the chicks is basically helping the guys out, because the thing is they meet them, and sometimes they would go to school, but then they would cut the school and spend the day in the city, and then go back and make sure they're back at school to be picked back up to go back to jail, like that. So they decide they're going to do these bank robberies and stuff like that. And then they also, first they cut in school to date these chicks and all that. Then they cut in school to rob the banks. And then when they rob the banks, they get apartments in the area. And they got these chicks. And so, these cats they was some kind of outfit, to be honest with you. But anyways, the feds know about this. They caught the guys and all that. But I'm just saying, the way these guys maneuvered was something else. And what had happened is they go into school, then they meet the chicks, then they decide they want to rob the bank. So once they rob the bank, then they get the girls to rent apartment and stuff like that, and then they now they got a place, they got chicks, and they got money. So this is going on for a little while, and then finally the agents figure out, they're like, well, we got some bank robbers, but the bank robbers are in jail, so it can't be them. And then they say, well, how about we go see them and talk to them, because they might, if it ain't them, they might know who it is, you know what I mean? And sometimes when people's in jail, sometimes it's as crazy as it may sound, sometimes they'll make deals with the government just so they can get their sentence shorter or get out of jail free card. You know what I mean? So, anyways, they go visit them in jail and talk to them, and they're not saying anything. So then the agents find out they got a program at the jail where the group of guys are going out to school every day. So now they know that. So then, they just keep investigating and stuff like that. And finally, it all comes to a head. Then they figure out these guys, what they were doing is they was on the release program. And while they was out, they met these chicks. They got apartments. They started robbing banks. Well, they met the chicks, robbed the banks, then got the apartments. But anyways, they just had a system going, And it was cold, to be honest with you. But, eventually it came to a head. And they all got caught, stuff like that. But that was just one crazy story, another crazy story that I heard about. And I was like, man, them guys, it was just something else, because most people that if they're incarcerated and stuff like that, even if they was getting out on work release or a program to do schooling or whatever the case may be, the last thing they're going to do is try to get in some more trouble, and they ain't even made it out of jail yet. You know what I mean? So that was just one crazy story that happened many years back. But that was just a crazy situation. You know what I mean? And then I got two more I'm going to share with y'all. And these are both bank robberies, but they're separate from this situation. And these two more are separate from each other also. Well, one time there's this bank, and this guy, he's cleaning the bank. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes they have a cleaning service that they don't do it every night, but they go in there and they clean and stuff like that. And so this guy's cleaning the bank while it's closed, and then he decides he's gonna, some people come up with these crazy ideas, and you almost think that, it could be a movie, but it really happened. You know what I mean? But this guy, he was doing the cleaning in the bank, and then the buttons that they push when to sound the alarm if they're being robbed or whatever, this guy just comes up with this idea that he's going to get crazy glue and then put it on the buttons, on all the buttons, and then the next day he's coming in to rob the bank. So when they push the button, they thinking the authorities are coming, but they're not because the button's not working. And then this guy ends up, robbing the bank, getting away. But eventually they catch him, and he goes to jail also. But and and through the investigation, that's how they figured out who robbed the bank, stuff like that. So people just have some crazy ideas, and you almost think that these people just ain't. I don't know, man. It's just when you hear the stories, you're like, you can't really believe that really happened, but it did. You know what I mean? This is a real story. But anyways, they did their investigation, and then they figured out that they had a cleaning service, and this guy uh, was the bank robber. So that's how he got caught. And then he went to jail and everything like that. But that was a crazy incident. Then we got one more to share with you, and this is another bank robbery. And this is where this cat, what he does, and we're basically just, sharing the news, basically. But for some, it's old news, and for many, it's new news. And it happened years back, you know what I mean? But anyways, then this last bank robber is a guy, and he comes up with this idea. He's like, he's going to post a cleaning job, and it's going to be everybody has to meet. He I don't know if it's a cleaning job, but he posts as a job, and it's paying really well, like I think 20 or 25 an hour or something like that. So he tells everybody, you got to wear a certain outfit, and then you got to show up at this bank, outside this bank, at a certain time on a certain day, supposedly to meet him, that he's going to hire you, you know what I mean? But this guy just cooks his plan up to rob this bank. And then what he does is there's a creek not too far from the bank, and he's got a raft tied off, And then what he does is he dresses the same way he's telling all these people to dress, and they all meeting them. I do believe it was a cleaning thing, and I think they was all just around the bank, cleaning up like garbage and stuff like that. And then they was also supposed to meet him and stuff like that, whatever. But he did that to throw everybody off, so everybody's dressed basically the same. And then he dresses the same as he tells the people to dress. He goes there, he robs the bank, and he takes off. Well, then, he's got this outfit on. So naturally, when they call the police, after he leaves, the bank gets robbed, they call the police. They describe what he's wearing. And then when the police show up at the bank, there's a shit ton of people out there that's got the same shit on, And they all look, so they're tripping out. But he done made his escape. And he gets on a raft and stuff like that and heads down the creek. But he ends up getting caught, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But it was just the shit that people will cook up, as far as an ideal to try to, get some money is crazy, you know what I mean? But we wanted to share these stories with you all, and these are true stories that really happened. But we want to share this with you all to let you know, if you ever come up with some crazy idea how to get some money quick and it's illegal, just don't do it. You know what I mean? Because you will get caught. So this is actually, it's a story that we're sharing with our audience, but we really want to bring awareness to people. And just once you hear these stories, you'll see that you need to make money the legit way, because if you try to, go under the viaduct and do something scandalous, you're going to get caught. There's very few, I mean very few, that actually get away with stuff like that and actually make it through. You know what I mean? So just don't be one of them cats that come up with a good idea, and that's not really a good idea, but at the time you're going to think it's a good idea, and you're going to cook up something, and it's going to burn your ass. You know what I mean? So just make sure if you're trying to make money, try to do it legit, and that way you ain't got to look over your shoulder all the time. You ain't got to get scared and nervous every time somebody knocks at the door or stuff like that. So, that being said, just make sure that whatever you do, make your money the legit way. And how we always leave y'all, stay positive, treat people the way you want to be treated, help out people in need, do at least one good thing a day for somebody, and you'd really feel good about yourself. And no matter what it is, if it's helping them with directions or whatever the case may be, just do good things for people, and you'll feel good about it. It will come back to you, but just don't expect nothing in return when you do a good deed. And but that being said, make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend about Detroit's Darkest Times. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell, and stay positive, keep it real, and enjoy life. We out.